Good afternoon. Apologies if you can't see my eyes because of the glare. I'm just in the mood today to be on my studious monk. I'm in that vibe today. So you cannot be alive and on social media and not see the hysteria. And I'm convinced. I've actually, what I'm about to say, I don't know if I've ever thought of being afraid in this way, but I want to make this claim and to get some thoughts to it, and we'll see how it goes. When I don't know what it is about both the world and the church, and America in particular, but there is this, I'm going to call it an infatuation with fear, being afraid, right? Over sensationalization, and I've watched it grow over time. I've watched this idea. I keep biting my tongue. I don't know what's going on. I've watched this idea of fear grow over time. And like, if you think about it, I said this in my last night. I didn't realize, I forgot it was Men's Mental Health Month. So shouts to all of us who are going crazy and still holding it down, right? But I do think that with all of the prescriptions and all the different things that cause anxiety, like, why are people more afraid now? And I have a theory, and I wanna introduce this theory to you. And this may or may not be scientific, but I'm not here. I'm just wearing glasses today to look studious. I'm on my OG, my original gangster, intelligent hoodlum moment, right? We've grown in fear so much, and I think fear is like the universal language right now. It used to be love, but fear, anxiety is the universal language right now. And I want to make this claim. I feel like right now where we are as a society is there's a fear of not being afraid. And I'll explain what I mean in a second, because it sounds like an oxymoron, right? But there's a fear of not being afraid. It's almost like fear is so normal, anxiety is so normal that we're almost afraid to not be afraid, to not be anxious, to not be that way. And it sounds crazy because I know people that really struggle with anxiety and they hate it. And I think they genuinely do. But sometimes so much of, like, people have been afraid since the beginning of time, right? They've never experienced as much therapy and so much medication in our day and age, but it doesn't seem to be alleviating the fear. So it's not as if we've made such scientific advancements that fear is, we got a grip on it now. We know we can take this pill and this will cure it. It seems like it's quadrupled in the last 15 years if you ask, the pharmaceutical market. And I think there's a fear of not being afraid because we're so used to it. But let me tell you what I think is behind that fear. And this is actually, if you're a Christian, this will make a lot of sense to you. If you're not, you'll be like, what in the world is he talking about? And I don't know. Go to someone else's YouTube channel. Having said that, like and subscribe to the channel. I'm supposed to say that always at the beginning of every video, and I never do. Like and subscribe because it helps the algorithm. It helps the channel grow. All right. Having said that, let me give you this theory of why I think people fear not being afraid. They're afraid of not being afraid. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, people think, no, I don't want to be anxious. Let me tell you what I think has happened. And this is how the enemy, Satan, the devil, this is how he's made fear something that people feel like they have to experience or have to have. And it's been very clever, actually. If you think about the idea, like right now, AI is the big thing, the future, right? We've been talking about AI and stuff since, I don't know, let's just say since Terminator, right? With Skynet, right? We've all been introduced in the 80s, if you grew up in the 80s or you watched those movies. I remember the first Terminator and all of them. I saw all of them. And they were fascinating movies, just the idea. Or Blade Runner. The idea, the first one, like with Harrison Ford, like in like 83, back when it was about like clones and people. We've been thinking about what AI can do and technology can do for so long that we have been looking to the future for so long. In fact, I remember as a kid one of the most popular musicians. I used to like his music a lot too. His name was Prince. And Prince used to have a song called 1999, right? And the whole song, and this was in the 80s. So the whole song was about waiting until 1999 and then he had the hook was like 2000 party over, it's out of time. Dun, 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 dun. So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 1999. Mind you, this was like 1984, right? What are you talking about, fam? How you gonna party like it's 1999 when it ain't even 1989, right? There's always been this fear of the future, what's going to happen, and this longing to get there, this longing to experience the technological advancements, right? Remember when Y2K hit? Everyone was selling their stuff. People thought there was going to be I remember people went out and bought so much water, they could have started their own company. Bammers was filling up their own pools with water. People were so afraid that everything was going to shut down that it was going to just be catastrophic. And then it was like 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. And not a light went off. And all the people that wasted all that money in fear felt foolish, right? Let me tell you what I think has happened. I think technology has made us afraid to remember the past because we're so aware of the future. Everything about technology says, look at what's coming. It makes us focus on the future. And some of us, we get excited. Oh, this technology, we're in awe of it. But then we get afraid of it. Oh no. And so now AI is actually here. But we know if we have AI, then there's AIs that are much deeper than us, right? There's all the technology makes us focus on the future and we're afraid to remember the past. And this is a great tool of the devil. Let me tell you why this is extremely important. Because in the scriptures, a lot of the times, yes, Jesus at times predicted things and said things would happen. Paul said that too. But if you notice, they always talked about the end times or the last days. I'm talking about 90 in the 90 percentile, Paul and Jesus and all of the New Testament writers, Peter, James, the author of Hebrews, right? They always talked about what we consider the last days, the end times in the future as imminent right now. Like Paul was like, look, our salvation is nearer now than it was the day we got saved. Like, let's get it in. Let's lock in. It was always that, right? The future was not something to gaze at and be afraid of. If it was to gaze at and focus on, right? It was just like, this is right now. The future is now is actually more biblical than the way we say it now. But technology has made us afraid of the past. You know, in the Old Testament, one of the ways that God showed his faithfulness, and this is like one of the paradigms in the Bible to how you grow in your confidence in the Lord, right? God would always send the prophets and they'd show up and be like, thus says the Lord. I, the Lord your God, brought your fathers out of Egypt. Why did he say that so many times? The Lord has done a lot of things. Why do you keep repeating that? Because that was the greatest act of salvation, and it required the Israelites to press through a lot of fear of the Egyptians, fear of walking through the Red Sea, fear of what's going to happen if they leave, right? There were so many things that God showed them, like, I delivered my people from this. You should have confidence and not be afraid of what I've done in the past. Like, everyone should be able to look in the scriptures and then look in their own lives and see, wow, God was already faithful. But what happens with technology is we don't even think about the past anymore. We're so focused on the future. The only time we think about the past is usually when we're trying to recreate a vibe. So like, oh, this is like retro. This is like 80s. You know, like there was a rush in the last couple of years of like recreating 80s music. You know, I think The Weeknd's whole album had like an 80s radio vibe, right? When it comes to vibes, we're trying to connect with something because it's kind of trendy. But the reality is most people are so focused on technology and we're so aware of it that we're actually afraid to remember the past. And let me tell you the main reason why I'm saying this. And I don't want to say too much because I'm preaching to my church tomorrow. Members of my church watch these streams. Here's why I'm saying this ultimately. Because when I look at my YouTube feed and I see all of the people, the rapture's coming, the end times, and the quoting this prophecy in Ezekiel 38, whether that's true or not, you know what's interesting is it like we've been here before? Remember Hitler about 80 years ago? Now, they didn't have social media back then, but you would be hard pressed for anyone to think that Hitler wasn't the Antichrist, the end of the world was any moment, and people were waiting to see the sky split and Jesus descend, or were waiting for the church to get caught up to meet Jesus. But we're acting like we haven't been here before. We're so afraid of like what technology has made us afraid to remember the past. Like we've been here before and all of these things. It's really fascinating to watch. But I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to make a video to keep the party going. See y'all tomorrow.